Hello students, today we will continue the chapter 17, that is respiration, breathing and exchange of gases. Earlier I had explained to you about the organs of breathing and respiratory system in human beings, as well as I had explained you the process of inspiration, expiration. Today we will begin with the exchange of gases. Now, what is exchange of gases? It is the diffusion of gases which takes place from a region of higher partial pressure of a gas to its lower partial pressure. I have already explained you that exchange of gases takes place at the alveolar level as well as in the tissues, and these gases shown in the table 17.1, they are showing the partial pressures. I had already explained you this, still repeating for you. Respiratory gases O2 and CO2, and atmospheric pressure in air it is 159 of O2 and 0.3 of CO2, and at alveolar level O2 is 104 and CO2 is 40, and in deoxygenated blood O2 is 40 and CO2 is 45, as well as in oxygenated blood O2 is 95 and CO2 is 40, and at the tissue level O2 is 40 and CO2 is 45. So today we will study the detail of exchange of gases. It takes place by the process of diffusion, that is the movement of gases from a higher level of region to the lower level. Now, as I told you that the diffusion of gases takes place from region of higher partial pressure of a gas to its lower partial pressure. So every gas has its own pressure called as partial pressure, which I have already explained you. Now here the exchange of gases O2 and CO2 occurs at two sites in the body, at the alveolar level and the tissues. Now what happens in the alveoli? Alveoli, here the exchange of O2 and CO2 takes place, and it depends upon the gradient of their partial pressure as well as solubility of the gases and the thickness of the membrane which is involved in the process of diffusion. I am repeating, in the alveoli, exchange of O2 and CO2 depends upon the gradient of their partial pressure, solubility of gases and thickness of the membrane which is involved in the process of diffusion. Now there is a concentration gradient for O2 from alveoli to blood and blood to the tissues, and gradient for CO2 from tissue to blood and from blood. I repeat, there is a concentration gradient for O2 to blood and blood to blood and blood to the tissues, and gradient for CO2 from the tissues to the blood and blood to the, and the solubility of CO2 is 20 to 25 times higher than that of CO2. As a result, amount of CO2 that can diffuse through the diffusion membrane per unit difference in partial pressure is much higher as compared to O2. I repeat, the solubility of CO2 is 20 to 25 times higher than that of O2. As a result, the amount of CO2 that can diffuse through the diffusion membrane per unit difference in partial pressure is much higher as compared to O2. And the diffusion membrane, that is very important, it is made up of three major layers, and the diffusion membrane which is made up of three major layers. The first layer is the squamous epithelium of alveoli, and the second is the endothelium layer of alveolar capillaries and the basement membrane between them. I am repeating about the membrane, diffusion membrane. It is the membrane which is made up of three layers. First layer is the squamous epithelium, means the alveolar layer is made up of squamous epithelial tissue. and the alveolar capillaries, they are the endothelium, and the basement membrane between them. You can see the membrane on the screen. This is the structure of a section of an alveolus with a pulmonary capillary given in the figure 17.4. It is showing you the three membrane. Thus the total thickness of the membrane is about 0.2 mm. And all the factors which are favorable for diffusion of O2 into venous blood from alveoli and diffusion of O2 from venous blood into the alveoli. So these are the factors, they should be favorable for the process of diffusion of O2 into the venous blood, means the deoxygenated blood from alveoli, and diffusion of CO2 from the venous blood, means deoxygenated blood into the alveoli. So this way exchange of gases depends upon the factors which I mentioned to you earlier. And now I'll tell you what happens in the tissues. Now in the tissues the PO2 is 40 mmHg, which I had shown you in the table, whereas in arterial blood, means oxygenated blood, it is brought to the tissues that is having PO2 of 95 mmHg, and O2 diffuses from blood into these cells that I had mentioned to you earlier. So I am repeating, the PO2, that means partial pressure of O2 is 40 mmHg, that is mercury, whereas arterial blood or the oxygenated blood which is brought to the tissues, it is having PO2, that means partial pressure in the tissues, that is 95 mmHg, and O2 thus diffuses from blood into these cells. Now inside the tissues the PCO2 is about 45 mmHg, which is higher than that of blood, that is 40 mmHg. Now the CO2 diffuses from the tissues into the blood. Therefore the CO2 diffuses from the tissues into the blood. Now how does the process of transport of gases takes place? How does the process of transport of gases takes place? The transport of gases means the O2 and the CO2. And I told you already, that is the process of diffusion is there for the exchange of gases, and how the O2 and CO2 is transported. No doubt it will be transported through the blood, and that is the RBCs present in the blood. So transport of gases, that is O2 and CO2, takes place through blood. Now the transport of oxygen, about 97% of O2 is transported by RBCs which are present in the blood in the form of oxyhemoglobin, because respiratory pigment hemoglobin is present in the blood. So the oxygen is transported in the form of oxyhemoglobin, and 3% is carried in a dissolved salts through plasma. I am repeating, about 97% of O2 is transported by RBCs in the blood in the form of oxyhemoglobin, and 3% is carried in a dissolved salts through plasma. Now the O2 binds with iron ions of hemoglobin in a reversible manner to form oxyhemoglobin. Each hemoglobin molecule can carry 4 molecules of oxygen, and the binding of O2 with hemoglobin depends upon the 3 factors again. I am repeating, each hemoglobin molecule can carry 4 molecules of O2, and the binding of O2 with hemoglobin depends upon the various factors, these 3 factors. First is the partial pressure of O2. I am repeating, binding of O2 with hemoglobin depends upon partial pressure of O2, that is represented by PO2, and the partial pressure of CO2, that is represented by PCO2, and hydrogen ion concentration and temperature, hydrogen ion concentration and temperature. Now what happens in the alveoli? What happens in the alveoli? In the alveoli there is high PO2, means the partial pressure of oxygen is higher, and low PCO2, that means the partial pressure of CO2 is low, and the H ion concentration is also low, as well as the temperature is low. These factors favor the binding of O2 with hemoglobin, and thus oxygen binds to hemoglobin and forms oxyhemoglobin. I am repeating, in alveoli there is high PO2, low PCO2, low H ion concentration and low temperature. These are the factors favorable for binding of O2 with hemoglobin, and therefore oxyhemoglobin is formed. Now what happens inside the tissues? Inside the tissue there is low PO2, high PCO2 and high H ion concentration and high temperature, which favors dissociation of O2 from oxygen. I am repeating, inside the tissues there is low partial pressure for O2 and high partial pressure of CO2, and the H ion concentration is higher, as well as the temperature is higher, which favors the dissociation of O2, and therefore O2 gets dissociated from the oxyhemoglobin. Now each 100 ml of oxygenated blood, it can deliver about 5 ml of O2 to the tissues under normal physiological conditions. And when the percentage saturation of hemoglobin with O2 is plotted against the PO2, a sigmoidal curve is obtained, which you can see on the screen here. It is showing you the sigmoidal curve. It is a curve showing you that the oxygen dissociation curve. It is showing you the partial pressure of oxygen represented in mmHg, as well as the percentage of the saturation of hemoglobin with oxygen. So it is, I just now told you that 5 ml of O2 to the tissues is normally delivered during the physiological conditions, and that is the each 100 ml of oxygenated blood can deliver about 5 ml of O2 to the tissues. Now when the percentage saturation of hemoglobin with oxygen, which is shown here in the figure, is plotted against the PO2, means the partial pressure of oxygen, a sigmoidal curve is obtained, and this is called a oxygen dissociation curve. So this way it's very easy for you to understand then when does the oxygen get dissociated and when does it get bind to the hemoglobin. As I mentioned you earlier, repeating again, an alveolar layer, when there is high PO2, low PCO2 and low H ion concentration and a low temperature, then the oxygen binds to hemoglobin, thereby forming oxyhemoglobin. And in the tissues, the partial pressure of CO2 is higher and the partial pressure of O2 is low, and the H ion concentration is higher, as well as the temperature is higher, which favors the dissociation of O2 from oxyhemoglobin. Therefore, the oxygen gets dissociated. And I mentioned that 100 ml of oxygenated blood or the arterial blood, it can deliver about 5 ml of O2 to the tissues under normal physiological conditions. So, and this graph plotted here, it is showing you the oxygen dissociation curve, which is showing you the partial pressure of oxygen, which rises, and then when the percentage of the hemoglobin with oxygen is saturated after the binding, and then it gets dissociated. So it gives you the sigmoidal curve, and it is called as oxygen dissociation curve also. Thank you.